Hey everyone, welcome to the week of November 18th. So this week we're going to be working with the vibration of the 47-2. So this is interesting energy because this can bring us to some kind of crossroads within our lives where some kind of decision needs to be made. This is a very decisive type of energy. So it's going to kind of push us to, face whatever it is that we're up against and make a decision. And one thing that is usually true about being at a crossroads is, there's at least two options. And so in order to say yes to something, we have to say no to something else. And obviously that can bring up some, conflicting energy that can make us feel like, put us in a gray area where we have to decide, what do we value, what is most important to us, and not saying that what we're releasing or saying no to doesn't have value or isn't important to us, but what we're saying yes to is moving us in a direction that our soul wants to be moving in, that our soul needs to be moving in. So we feel called more so to that direction than the other. But my point of bringing this up, right, we're basically working with two energy. And so one way we can look at this is there's at least two options. And we have to decide which option is going to sort of bring us the most peace, the most balance, the most harmony, into the most alignment with, our calling, our purpose, what it is that we want to be moving towards. And in order to do that, as I said, a lot of times we have to release something. And so an example that I use a lot of times is maybe we get some kind of a promotion, but that promotion asks us to, or we have to move, across country in order to fulfill that opportunity, that promotion. And so saying yes to that feels good. It feels aligned. It's moving us in the direction that we want to be moving in. It feels really, really good. But in order to say yes to it, we have to say no or release the comfort of home, friends that we've built, family, whatever the case may be. We've got to sort of not necessarily say no to them, but we have to make that altercation. We need to make that change, right? And so in doing so, there can be some grief involved with that decision-making process, right? And not only deciding, but following through and then taking that action towards that other option. So this week could put us at that crossroads and remind us that we can stay at that crossroads as long as we feel we need to, but it's just going to get continuously more and more uncomfortable to the point where we're going to have to make some kind of a decision. And though it would be easier oftentimes to decide to stay in a situation that is known, that is comfortable, that, we sort of know what we're getting, this energy is likely going to push us towards making the decision towards the unknown, towards the thing that feels more aligned, that lights us up, that creates that spark within us, that ignites that curiosity that we feel more drawn towards. We just have to move through that process of releasing what is no longer serving, right? And make that decision to invest in ourselves, invest in our future, invest in, aligning with the direction we want to be moving towards. So my point of saying all this is because it can be, when we're at this crossroads, when we have to make these decisions, it can be really challenging energy at times. Because a lot of times when we're at that crossroads, it's not necessarily, the answer is not always clear. It's not always like black and white. It's often very gray. And so we really have to lean into, feel into, and follow that inner guidance, that North Star, to help us to decide which is best for us in this moment. And a lot of times when we're making a decision, a lot of fear can come in, a lot of fear, a lot of doubt, a lot of irrational fear, a lot of rational fear as well, right? So, there's just things that we need to kind of work through in making these decisions. And when we can do that, right, when we can kind of move through it, deconstruct it, and overcome those fears, then we're opening ourselves up to greater opportunities, right? Greater potentials for growth. So, just acknowledge that if you find yourself at a crossroads this week and you're making those decisions and you're committing to them and you're moving forward, just know that there may be some grief that comes up with releasing whatever you have to say no to in order to say yes to this. And honor that, right? Feel through it, move through it, channel that energy into something constructive, move with it. So we could find ourselves there this week. Because this is the 47, but also in there is the 11, it does bring in this need for greater effort, right? So it's not just about sort of deciding what you want to do, right, at this crossroads. It's about then taking that action, right? Committing, making a plan, saying yes and moving forward. And here's something too that we often forget. We can make a decision, we can say yes to something, we can move forward, and we can have that fear, right? We can say, well, I'm doing this, but I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm a little bit nervous about it, whatever. But we need to remind ourselves that by making that decision and just by moving in the direction that we know we are meant to move towards, or that feels most aligned at that moment, we can always make new decisions down the road if we decide that we made the wrong decision, or it's not working, or there's a better option, because we're always in these moments of making decisions, right? Like once we decide something, then another, choice comes in, then another, then another, then another. So every time we have those opportunities to course direct, redirect in some way. So just know that whatever decision you're making at this point in time, though it could be very life-defining and very pivotal, it doesn't have to be, it can be temporary, right? The outcome from that decision can be temporary because you're always going to be making new decisions as you continue to move forward. So don't get too caught up on, oh my gosh, I'm going to make this decision and it's going to define the rest of my life, because we know that that's not the case. There's always new options, there's always new opportunities, there's always new crossroads that we'll enter to help us to stay aligned on our path, right? So we can always move in a new direction. We can always sort of clean up that mistake or that error if we need to. So just kind of remember that. But because there's that sort of influencing energy of the 11 tucked away in this vibration, there is this sort of need for greater effort. So again, it's not just about making the decision, it's about committing to it, saying yes to it, taking the action, having a plan, putting those wheels in motion, and really, really, overcoming any obstacles that may present, giving yourself time to move through whatever may present without trying to rush the process, but by being, diligent in your efforts. So there will be this requirement of that sort of additional effort, but that additional effort will bring additional rewards, right? So it's kind of, because there's that 4 energy in there as well, with the 47, there is that promise of, your rewards will be in direct proportion to the effort put forth. That is just typically the way the 4 energy works. And that, coupled with the vibration of the 11, is saying, move towards what inspires you, move towards what lights you up, move towards what feels most aligned, put in that effort, make the plan, commit to it, see it through to completion, and you'll be rewarded and with great reward, right? Whether that's emotional reward, spiritual reward, tangible physical rewards, depends on what we're talking about and what the situation is. Because this can, of course, come in, this is a general reading, this can come in as, around relationships, around a creative project, anything in your life, health, whatever it may be. So the rewards will be a direct proportion to the effort put forth in that area of your life, wherever it shows up. The other thing I would say that's really interesting about this energy that makes it really kind of unique is it can cloud our judgment a little bit, right? It's an interesting energy because we're at this crossroads. We have to make some kind of a decision, but it's almost like there's some fog around us, right? There's some illusion that we have to break through in order to get to the truth of whatever this is, right? Like whatever it is that we're choosing to do. Now, let me kind of break this down. So in other words, you might be at a crossroads and you might have a decision to make. But I would invite you, before making some kind of drastic, irrational decision because of a charged energy, like emotions or something like that, take your time and kind of break it down, right? Like get to the truth of whatever this is. Like, and by the truth, I mean like, how do you feel about this? Like truly, like what is it that you want? What is it that you want more at this time? What is pulling you, which direction is pulling you more strongly? And why, right? This is going to be a time where you want to come back to your why. You want to come back to what holds value for you. And it might be something where it's like, that the goal is long, to get to that goal is long and arduous. But that's okay, because that goal, that destination holds some kind of value for you. And there's a reason for wanting to achieve that. And so this energy says, come back to that in making this decision. Come back to what holds value for you and come back to your why. Like, why does this hold value for you? Whatever this is. And how much value does it hold for you? And what are you willing to do in order to get there? What does that look like for you? It is interesting because on this path, when the 47-2 is involved, it can bring in sort of temptations to sort of test, because this is a little bit of a testing energy, because again, we have that 11 kind of shuffled in there. There can be a little bit of a testing energy here that is saying, look at this shiny whatever, right? This shiny new thing. Are you sure you want to go down this really difficult, arduous road to get to your destination? Because look at this, you could have this right now. It's ready and waiting, right? So it's kind of like that, this path of illusions, right? Where there can be a lot of temptations sort of in the way that present themselves to you to get you off track, right? And the purpose of that energy, though it can seem kind of ridiculous and punitive, isn't to necessarily trip you up or trip us up. It's more to say, again, come back to your why, come back to your value, and stay focused on that. Like, stay focused on the goal. This is not going to be a time where you want to go, you want to jump towards get rich quick schemes, or, say yes to the path that looks, the most well pruned and, frilly and like the easiest, right? Like a stroll in the park, because that's not necessarily going to hold the rewards that you're looking for. That's not going to hold that achievement that you're looking for, whatever, in whatever area this is. So I would be really cautious of those temptations that present at this time that try to hold you back or try to derail you in some way. And it could be you want to move cross country to say yes to your dream job, but you have friends or family that are trying to convince you of why you should stay because they're not ready to let you go yet, right? So, and they might be very enticing with their offers to keep you there. And this is just an example, right? But so you have to come back to use your own discernment and really feel into what feels true for you. What is aiding in your own personal evolution forward that's going to help you to get you there, right? Staying here and saying no to this opportunity that you're really excited about, that really lights you up, even though it's difficult to say goodbye to this, right? This is going to hold the most reward for you. This is going to keep you stuck in a place that you've outgrown. You're ready for the next thing. So that's what I mean when I say just be a little overly cautious when it comes to those temptations that are packaged really, really beautifully and really, really well, but that seem too good to be true, or that are kind of the easy road in this road of that's actually deterring you from where you want to go, right? Yeah. And like in a relationship, it could be like, maybe there's a relationship that, you really want to work towards, you really want to continue to build upon, etc. But something else comes in that's very enticing, potentially, that draws your attention, that, is sort of that lust at first sight or whatever the case may be. You just need to come back to your values, your truth, what it is that you want, what it is that you want to commit to and dedicate yourself towards. What is the end result that you want to see? And then what action do you have to take to get there and build towards whatever that is, right? That's what this energy is saying. but it can be a little tricky because it can throw in those false gemstones to deter you from reaching the actual gemstone, if that makes sense. So interesting energy there. I would definitely say be very discerning and to continue to come back to what holds the greatest value for you, right? What holds your greatest truth, which direction, what thing feels most aligned for you in this moment, because that will continue to evolve and change, right, as you do. So just be adaptable and flow with that energy, but be mindful to not be too quick to say yes to those easy temptations. I mean, you can, right? I mean, there's nothing that says you can't. You'll figure it out. You'll figure it out down the road. But in figuring it out down the road, this opportunity may have passed, right? So you just want to make sure that you take your time and really kind of feel into what feels best for you in this moment, right? You can always redirect, you can always reroute, but the goal is to come into balance with oneself, to come back to your center and continue to move in the direction that feels most aligned for you, even though that's usually the more difficult path, right? That's not always the easy path. And in doing so, we often have to leave something behind or several things behind. And that can be really, really difficult for anybody. Let's see. Yeah, I would say, like, kind of in closing, be careful of those rose-colored glasses. Be careful of, when it comes to people, to things, make sure that you take those rose-colored glasses off and you see the person or the thing for how they are presenting in this moment. This would be one of those energies where, again, it would be really easy for someone or something to present that just seems too good to be true and kind of sweeps you off your feet and distracts you in some way, distracts you from what it is you truly want. And you just have to kind of, again, come back to yourself, come back to your center and come back to your why and see what holds the greatest value to you. This is a week where if things seem too good to be true, they likely are. Not always, but under this energy, because this energy requires effort. It requires saying yes to the road less traveled, if that's the road that's going to get you to the direction you want to be moving towards, right? To the goal that you want to reach. And there can be a lot of different distractions kind of thrown in along the way to sort of test and say, okay, but how badly do you want this? How much are you willing to invest to get there? Can you keep your eye on the goal? Can you keep your eye on the prize, regardless of what's sort of being thrown in your path to distract you away from that? Because again, this is an energy this week that's going to require that effort. It's going to require that patience and that tenacity and to continue to show up to what it is that you want truly and like what your soul wants. No matter what is placed before you in your path that's trying to distract you. So really interesting energies this week, but the thing I would say is keep coming back to you, keep coming back to your own personal truth. Weigh your options and see which one holds the most value for you. And that doesn't mean that the other one doesn't have value for you. Just means that the one or the path that you're choosing is the one that's going to get you to the destination that you really want to be moving towards, right? That feels the most aligned for you. So I don't know, I just feel like it's kind of like entering a little bit of a circus, like the smoke and mirrors, right? Yeah, where you just have to kind of take your time and be patient and pace yourself and check in with yourself, come back to center, make sure that you're being discerning when you're making decisions, especially with working with people, with saying yes or committing to something long-term or making those big pivotal life-defining decisions. Make sure that you're weighing it out, that you're really thinking about it and you're not too impulsive, right? So, and I would also say this is not necessarily an energy that gets those instant results. Like you might make the decision and expect to see things come, just be laid out before you and have things come to fruition, but it doesn't really work that way, especially when there's that 4 energy involved. And of course, 47, right? So this is going to take effort and commitment and persistence, right? And patience. Patience is a big one. So just keep coming back to that, and you will eventually get to the destination, but you're going to have to kind of work for it, right? And it's not going to necessarily be, just show up as if by magic or be handed over. It's going to require that effort and that persistence. So beautiful energy. But again, if it holds value for you, if it holds true to your why, then it'll be worth every bit of effort you've got to put forth to get there. So I hope it's a great week. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.